Okay, can we help me from where I need to start? I think convolution operation, all of you
Second slide,
have,
you are in second slide. Yes, just after this.
I think from the pooling operation, am I right?
Yes, yes, yes.
Convolution has convolution. Is this slide complete?
Yes, yes.
Okay, okay. The pooling
From this
operation.
slide.
So for pooling operation, again, we will have some window there, and using that window, we will take either average, mean pool, max pool, or median like this. So for max pooling operations, what you do there, if you consider this input image and perform max pooling operation, then what is the maximum value when I consider this sub figure or sub window, that is 3, that 3 will be at the output. Now, after that, that window need to be stride by for the next position, and depending on the value of stride, it will be moved from here to another position. If stride is 2, then the next position of the window will be this. So again, if we perform max pooling operation, what is the maximum value there? That will come to the output. Again, that is 3 here. So in this way, we will have this output if we perform max pooling operation using this 2 by 2 window with stride 1. So this is the main two operations that you need to understand the coding when we implement a model. So now I am starting to show you how we can implement any use case. So in the first step, we are considering a very simple use case that is widely used from the beginning of deep learning. The data set is MNIST, basically handwritten digits, 0 to 9, 10 number of classes are there, and the size of the images are 28 cross 28, and that images are available on the internet in the various form. So as most of you are the beginner in this deep learning field, so I think it would be easy to understand to grab overall framework if we consider that use case. In the second hub, we'll consider another real-time use case where you will able to classify COVID, non-COVID images. And to implement those use cases, we will use Anaconda. So how to install Anaconda, I will share a simple document after completing to this session. So using that, you will able to install Anaconda and assume that we have Anaconda installed. So now to access Anaconda, a Conda environment, we have two options. Either you can use Anaconda UI or you can just use Jupyter Notebook or Spider, means whichever you will use, that you can access through command window. So that I prefer only because of that is lighter than the whole Anaconda framework. So to do that, I am just searching command prompt here. So now in command prompt, where you want to keep your project or already kept, you need to browse there. So for me, I have this Dropbox, and in that Dropbox, I am having use cases. And under use cases, we have FDP CEMK folder. So we'll browse there. So to browse there, CD, change directory, then Dropbox. Again, in Dropbox, we have use cases folder. So we have in use case folder, and now we have, I think the name of the folder, that is FDP CEMK. So CD F. So now we are in this folder. Now just implement or execute this command, Jupyter Notebook. So why we are using Jupyter Notebook? That is interactive one, very much popular. You can run there in blocks, number of blocks, and you can see the corresponding output just after the blocks. So we are considering this use case here. And before moving to the actual code, you need to understand the network we will implement here. Before moving to the network, I want to explain what is the deep learning project life cycle. What are the important things that you need to understand there? So if you consider a real-time DL-based project,
there is a question.
Yeah, please.
One participant have asked, what is the purpose of pooling?
Okay, sure. Yeah, Virobda, I think I can take the questions from the theory portions now. Then we can move practical. Am I right?
Okay.
Okay, that would be better. So if anybody has any questions regarding the slides that already I explained, please make those questions. I want to make them clear. Okay, the question is really a very important question. See, if you see this slide here, I think you can easily understand why we will use pooling layer there. This was our input. The number of rows and number of columns, if you consider as a matrix, was 4 cross 4. After performing max pooling operations, we are now having 2 cross 2. So pooling operation is nothing but subsampling. Downsampling we are performing here. What downsample do? Just reduce the spatial dimension of input. And if you, there is two purposes. One purpose is to reduce the computational complexity for the subsequent layer. Another one, that is the most important one, from the input images, we always try to extract features, and the features should be in compressed form. So that's why we introduce pooling operation here. Now, why we will use max pooling? Assume that we have an input image and there is some curve-like structure, and the kernel we are using there for convolution that will try to learn the kernels, a curve natures. So when we use this together with the pooling operations, then the compressed learning features will be introduced there. Means if we use pooling operation here, we will have compressed features at the output, as well as the spatial dimension of the input will also be reduced. That will help us to reduce computational power requirement during training. Is there any question? Any more question, please?
No, presently there is no more question.
Okay, fine. Thank you. Okay. So when you talk about the life cycle of a DL project, so first of all, we need to understand what is the business problem. And depending on the business problem, we ask data from the client. Client provide data. After that, we analyze the data. After analyzing the data, we study whether the business problem can be addressed, means the feasibility study will be performed there. If we think that, yeah, this is feasible, then we need to perform this important stage, that is data preparation. In the data preparation stage, what do you do? Data clean. Is there any noise? We try to reduce this noise. Is there any inconsistencies in the data with the actual features? We reduce, try to address this problem. If there are any missing value, we try to address this problem. So when we talk about the images, then the data preparation stages or effort comparatively reduced from the compared to the data. Those are in the form of numeric values only, table forms. So after the data is prepared, and please remember the most of the effort we need to provide for this data preparation stage. If you consider the whole life cycle as 100% one, then near about 60% effort we need to put for data preparation. And after that, we will have the modeling portion. So mainly we will focus on this portion here, means today. And you have built a model, you have trained that model. Now this is task to evaluate the model, the performance of the model. And as well as you need to communicate with the client whether the service provided by the model is satisfying their requirement. And if there will be a continuous number of communications, if they all are satisfied with all the steps, then we go for production phase. So in this session, our focus will be mainly on these portions: data preparations, modeling, as well as evaluation. So now we want to introduce or implement that network, that is LayNet 5, a standard network that was proposed by some researchers. This is very well-known one. There was a multiple number of versions. So we are going to implement here 5th version. And I already defined the objective of our problem: to identify handwritten diseases, to classify handwritten diseases, means whether it is 0, 1, 2, up to 9. So see, the input here we have used, that is 32 cross 32. And kindly note, the data set we are going to use here will have 60,000 number of images, and the dimension of the images is 28 cross 28. So if you consider this dimension here, so you need to pad zeros. So there the padding value is 2. So to use this network, first task is to pad this. After that, we have this convolution layer. So in this convolutional layer, we will use some filters and see what is the dimension of the filters, that is 5 cross 5. And how many filters we are using there? If you see this values here, this is 6 into 28 cross 28. 28 cross 28 is nothing but the dimension of the spatial dimension of the output activation map after performing this convolution operation here. And 6 is the number of kernels we have used. So I think you have understood this portion. If you notice, there is written C1. C1 is nothing but C is for convolution. 1 is first layer, features map. So this is the features map or output or activations map after performing first layer operation. And the operation was convolution 1. So we are using 6 number of convolutional filter here, kernels here, and after performing this convolution operation, we will have 6 number of channels in the features map, and the dimension of the channels or features map will be 28 cross 28. Means initially we have used padding here, but after that we have not used padding there. According to their architecture, so you can make it 28 cross 28, does not matter. According to in code, you need to change there. So see, after that, we have another layer here. So if you notice this, this is S1, sampling 1. So after performing this sampling operation, we will have 6 number of channels at the features map, as the number of input channels is 6. Remember, for any pooling operation, no learnable parameters are involved there, as well as there will be no modification on number of input channels. So as input channels was 6, output channel will also be 6 there. And what will be the dimension of the spatial dimension of the feature map? After sampling, as you have already seen, if the size of the window is 2 cross 2 and stride is 2, it will reduced by 50%. So that's why it is 14 cross 14. So I think there is no problem to understand this part. And see, here they indicated this as one layer, first layer. So you may note that they considering in the first layer, they considering both convolution as well as pooling layer as one operation. You may consider different layers as also. Okay. In the same fashion, if you move on, you will able to understand this portion also. Here, the number of filters used 16, and if you see, the number of features map has been reduced. It was 14 cross 14, it is 10 cross 10. So number of kernels used 16, and the dimension of each kernel is again 5 cross 5. And after that, we have used sampling operation there. So after this convolution portions, means after this first layer and second layer, we are having this in the output. Now we are going to classifier part. If you try to break this whole network, we can say that during this period, we are trying to extract features from the input images. And in this portion, we are trying to classify, that is, we are going to present the output. And to do that, we need to define fully connected layer. So here the number of neurons we have used 120. So this is fully connected layer. You can consider as one-dimensional vector that is having 120 number of elements. And in between that, we have another operation that is flatten. Why flatten operation is required? Because this is multi-dimensional array. To convert this multi-dimensional array into one-dimensional vector, we need to have flattened layer. So here, we will have flattened layer. At the final layer, as number of classes are 10, for this problem, we will have 10 number of neurons. So except convolution, pooling, we will have activations function, objective functions. So I will try to explain what is the need of activation functions there during coding. So if you have any questions, please feel free to make the questions. So whenever we implement...
There is a question.
Please.
Can you represent color of this image here?
Okay, the color, I think you were talking about yellow, green like this.
Yes.
Yes, so basically there is no indication of these colors. You can use any colors to differentiate this spatial map from the another spatial map. We have used different colors, nothing else. So colors does not carry any special indication here. Okay. So whenever we implement any deep learning model to train, to evaluate, we need to have some libraries. What are the libraries? If you consider core Python, that is low-level language, so you need to write a lot of code if you want to implement that network in core Python. So instead, what we do, we use some upper layer tools. Means those functions are already written. If we call them, if we enable them, if we use them, it will be easy to us to implement a network with little effort. And that's why we will use some upper layer tools. And the tools we are considering here is Keras. So in the lower layer, Python is running. On top of that, Keras is learning. And at the back end of Keras, that means you can consider in between Python and Keras layer, there is another layer, TensorFlow. Even you can use TensorFlow directly, but why I suggest you to use Keras? Because if we will be able to understand those codes compared to TensorFlow easily. Even nowadays, TensorFlow already integrated or has tie-up with Keras. So even those are also very simple to understand. Whatever, here we are using Keras as machine learning tools to implement our model. And at the middle layer, we will have TensorFlow. So see, whatever libraries we need to have import, that will depend on your requirement. If you notice that this is first task, you have to do that. In the second line, if you notice, that is keras.dataset. So in the Keras, we have another module, a folder that you can consider, datasets. From there, we'll import MNIST. So that dataset we are going to use there is already having by Keras. In this module, we are just importing from there. So a lot of effort will be reduced. And obviously, as I already mentioned in the second session, I will not consider any other data sets from the scratch, means from the folders, we will how we can access those images or data, that will be explained. And see, after that we have the sequential class we need to import. That is also present in the models module. Why that is required? To implement our model, to define our model. The model we will implement, that is basically sequential in nature, means one after another layers will be added. So that's why we are importing this. So after that, already I have mentioned this convolution operations. To use convolution operations, we need to import this. To use max pooling operation, we need to use this. To use flatten operation or flatten layer, we need to use this. So these are the mandatory. Other than that, if you notice, there is dense. See, in this layer, we are having a full. This is fully connected layer and one-dimensional vector having 120 neurons. So to define this layer, we need to have this dense layer, this dense class objects. Other than that, we are having dropout. I will explain why or what is the role of dropout here. That is nothing but a regularization, some penalty we will introduce during training. And to do that, we will have dropout layer. Why that penalty? To prevent overfitting. I think you know what is underfitting, overfitting. If you have any question, definitely I will clear that. But I assume that you know all those things. After that, see, there is some plot related matters, means we will try to visualize our performance of the models through some graphical things. So that's why these tools are required, and we are also importing them. So if you see Matplotlib, that is widely used, very old tool. Basically, why that name is given, that is look like MATLAB plots. So the team that started working with the plotting related matters in Python, for Python, they were experienced with the MATLAB graphics tools. So that's why they tried to make such things like MATLAB. So that's why they gave name like this. So from them, we will use PyPlot, Python plot, and see here we have used as PLT, as nothing but some alias name. If you don't use, does not matter. So instead of using this full name, PyPlot, we can have this short name. So that's why aliasing we are using there. That is optional. And there is some NP utilities to perform some tensor related operations. We require this tool. However, whatever tools you need to import all those tools. So it is not possible to explain each and every line. So I will try to explain most of the portions that is required for you. If you want to use this program exactly for your case, you will able to modify and use. So at least those portions I will explain. So see, this portion is running. It will be a little bit slow only because of now my internet is connected through my mobile. Okay. So see, if you see, this is means all tools has been imported, and as already I mentioned, at the back end of this Keras, we are using TensorFlow. So that's why this is coming here. So other than TensorFlow, there are some other options that also you can use. Personally, I prefer TensorFlow. There is no hard and fast rule, but you can use Theano, CNTK, all those things, does not matter. So only very small things you need to modify. So I will try to explain that portion also. So after importing the required libraries, we need to have the data. Using the data, we'll train our model. So to import the data here, basically we are loading this data from this Keras library. See that MNIST we have imported there. So that's why we are just writing MNIST dot load data. And that data will be loaded in this variables. If you see, there are 4 numbers of assigned variables. This is image train. So if you consider image, that image will have some picture of any digits, either 0, 1, 2, 9. And another portion is it will have some label. Means if the image is actually of 2, then the label of the image will be 2. So that's why these 2 portions, and this is for training portion. There is 2 folder, one is train, another is test. So each and every folder will have 2 things, image as well as corresponding label. So that's why we need to have these 4 things, 4 assigned variables. So after that, I'm running this. Okay. So after that, you might be wanted to see the images, means what is in the data set. So to do that, we have this block of codes. That is basically we have used this matplotlib plt subplot function. That is very easy to understand. I am not explaining these lines. And see, the color map is gray. To we want to see this output using this color map gray. See, we have just taken first image from training data set, second, third, fourth. So this is 5, this is 4, 0, 1. So these are the images. As already I mentioned, the dimension of the images is 28 cross 28. You can easily understand from these values. Okay. So after that, we need to convert these images. So image train is having the images, those are resides in train folder. Now our task to be convert those images into tensors. And to do that, we need to use this reshape function that will be invoked on image train as well as image test data. And if you see during this operation, we are optioning, we are mentioning what should be the data type after converting this into tensor. So see, I have mentioned there, if you use TensorFlow as backend, what changes will be there, and if you use as Theano, there is 2 different things. One is number of channel. See, if you notice this is nothing but how many images are present in the train folder. That is 60,000. These all images will be reshaped in terms of this tensor. For each tensor, it will have, for this tensor, it will have 28 cross 28 spatial dimension. Number of channel will be 1. So you can say that the overall dimension after converting this is 60,000, 8, 8, 1. If you use Theano as backend, then that channel will be fast there. So it will be like 1, comma, image train.shape 0, comma 28, comma 28. So nothing else. Every other things are same. So after that, so what we have done here, we have just convert those input images into tensors. Now we are having these tensors. We need to have data processing, as already mentioned, data preparation. This is a stage first we need to follow. So here, after converting those images into tensors, what to do? Normalization operations we need to perform. And you may ask why normalization is required. As you know that for images, a pixel can have any value in the range of 0 to 255 if that pixel is of 8-bit image. Now, so when you convert that images into tensor, the tensor will have, means any element of the tensor can have any value in between 0 to 255. But the network we are going to implement will use some activation functions to introduce non-linearity into the model. And those activation functions are defined based on 0, 1 like this. So that is the main reason we need to normalize these tensor values by dividing maximum value that can be present for an element, and that is 255. After that, the variables for any cases, if you work with categorical variables, what are the categorical variables? If you consider these two parts, one is image, you may say that this is data actually. This is the corresponding label. Label of an image is 5 for this case. For this case, 0. For this case, 4, 1. They are nothing but some category. And their range can be number of total classes present in the data set. That is 10 here. So either 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. These are the category. So you cannot work with those categorical variables directly. We need to convert these categorical variables into some embedding forms. So there is one hot encoding, that is popular operations. When number of categories are very small, we use one hot encoder. Other than that, we also have some other encoders. So for this case, we have used one hot encoding. And to do that, we have used this tool. And we have this function that is defined here. We have invoked this function on this, through this, to convert this 0, 1, 2 labels into there will be 10 number of columns, 0 to 9. And say you are considering this image. And the label of this image is 5. So how that 5 will be indicated by the categorical variable, as there is 10 number of columns, 0 to 9. So only at the sixth position, it will have 1 other than that 0. That is basically one hot encoding. Means that is a vector at the position where it is representing 5 will be 1 other than that 0. My Keras will understand this is 5. So I think you have understood what is the need to perform these operations. Okay, and now we are going to the next phase, that is modeling. So data preparation portion we have done. We have not used any augmentation, any cleaning, any other operations to avoid complexity. Even for the simple case, you don't need to have those operations. Those are pretty simple. Using very simple modification, you can do that for your actual project or problem. So I assume that you will able to do that. So after that, the modeling portion. So that model will define there. See, here we need to define this input shape. So the input images is having 28 cross 28 spatial dimension. And it is not color image, only one channel. So that's why these values are like this. And that is a variable that we have considered here to define number of class labels, that is 10. After that, we have taken an object of sequential class and the variable that is model. So you can say that model is a reference that is referring to an object of sequential class. Already I mentioned why we use this sequential object here. After that, we are adding this first convolutional layer. This first convolutional layer we are going to define in our DL model. So what is the number of kernels we use there? 6. How we can understand? From the number of channel of the output activations map. That is 6. So number of kernels is 6. What is the dimension of the kernels? That is 5 cross 5. So this is 6th number of kernels we have used. The size of kernel is 3 cross 3. Activation, as I already mentioned, activation function is required for each and every layer. If it is convolution one, I think you are very much aware of ReLU activation function. So as this is hidden layer, we have used ReLU. For final layer, you cannot use ReLU in this case. And see here, input shape is equal to input shape. So this is the input shape, this value will be there. So instead of defining there, you can directly define here. That does not matter. So the first layer has been defined. After that, we have used pooling operation. So we have defined this convolutional layer. Now we need to define this pooling layer. So in this way, you need to define this layer, this layer, this layer, this layer. So here it is pooling operation. If you notice, we have used max pooling 2D. As two-dimensional pooling operation will take place, so that's why max pooling 2D. And that is again in sequential object, available in sequential object. So here you need to define the value of this variable pool size, that is 2 cross 2. And see, by default, the stride is 2. If you want to make any changes in the stride, you need to mention stride equal to that value before a comma here. So I think you also understand this one.
One question. I think the kernel size was 5 cross 5 in your diagram.
Okay, sure. Yeah. So we can, I forgot to mention, there is no issue if we use here 5 cross 5, but I have modified these values only because I am running here right now. So if the kernel size increases, number of learnable parameters also increases. As a result, the computational requirement, or we can say that the training time when we run that code will take a lot of time. So to reduce this computational requirement, I have just modified these values into 3 to 3. Does not matter, in the same code, you just mention 5 cross 5, like this, it will run. I think there is no more doubt.
Okay.
Okay. So even you can make, instead of 120, you can make here 20 only. So only the thing you need to mention, be careful there, the input shape. And after that, automatically, your model, means Keras, will handle all those things. You just modify these values, number of kernels. So instead of 6, if you use 10, this code will run fine. There will be no issue. So only at the output, you will have 10 numbers of features. So in this way, we have defined the next subsequent layers, convolution, again, max pooling. As already I mentioned, after this layers, we will move to the fully connected layer. We need to convert this multidimensional array into one-dimensional vector. There we need to use flatten operation. So that's a very simple code. You just put this exactly. So whatever output that is in the form of multidimensional array after performing these layers operations, that will be converted into one-dimensional vector. After that, that one-dimensional vectors will be reduced to 122. That is basically this layer. So we have defined this using this dense objects. And once again, you have defined their ReLU. So whenever you will use any pooling like operations, you need not to define any activation functions, only because of any pooling layers does not have any learnable parameters. So where learnable parameters are involved, there only the role of activation functions come in this scenario. So as this dense layer, we have learnable parameters, weight biases, those are the learnable parameters. So that's why, again, we need to define some activation functions here. So again, we have mentioned or we have considered the ReLU as activation functions. After that, we have used dropout layer. Dropout layer, basically, we use to prevent overfitting. If you don't know what is overfitting, I can explain later, no problem. But see, the value that is, okay, very good. So the value is 0.5. That means randomly 50% neuron will be deactivated during training. So whenever this training will going on, when the training comes in this in this fully connected layer, randomly 50% neuron will be deactivated, means won't function. And say for this first epoch, the 50 number of neurons will be deactivated. For the second epoch, it will be changed. And that's why we say that this is random in nature. And that is very much essential. So you cannot deactivate a fixed number of neurons for each and every epoch. So it must be random. Okay. So even you may not use this regularization here. That does not matter. Your code will work fine. See, now we comes in the final layer. Here we have used number of classes, as already I mentioned that in the final layer there is 10 number of class, that is 0 to 9. So that value you need to mention here. So instead of using this variable, you may skip this line. You can directly assign 10, the value 10 here. And if you notice, activation function we have used there, that is softmax. We have not used ReLU here. If you notice, or if you know the nature of the ReLU function, that is obviously non-linear, but it will have some linear nature. If you consider 0 to infinity. But if you use that function here, that problem will transfer to the regression one. But our problem is classification one, means we want to classify our input into some category, either 0, 1 to 10. So to do that, we won't be able to use any linear-like function like ReLU, leaky ReLU, all those things. Instead, we use softmax. I assume that you know the definition of softmax. So if we run this, our model has been defined. Now, if you want to see this model, see this is the model summary here. See, this is the convolution, 2D convolution layer 1, max pooling 1, convolution 2, max pooling 2, flatten layer, dense layer, dropout layer, everything. And after using this kernels, what will be the shape of output? That is also you have obtained there. 26 cross 26 cross 6 as 6 number of kernels. So already you know that at the output we will have activation functions with 6 number of kernels. And if you notice, there is another column that is parameters. These are the learnable parameters. And as somebody asked me, instead of why 5 cross 5 you have used 3 cross 3. So only reduce this number of parameters here, learnable parameters. So if learnable parameters more and more, means during backpropagation, during training, more and more parameters you need to be updated. So to reduce that computational burden, we have reduced the value of this. And I think you can understand these values, how we can have there 26. I am explaining for this layer, and for the other layers we will able to understand how the 60 is coming there. I think you don't have any confusion for this portion, but here
there is one question from the participant side.
Yeah, please.
Whether executing this in Jupyter Lab or in Google Colab will make any difference?
Yeah, for if you want to execute this file in Google Colab, this file you need to upload in your Google Drive. After that, there is certain authentication you need to perform there, and after that you need to have you will have some access to the data set, and rest of the part will be same. So there will be no other notifications for Google Colab. Okay, so how this 60 is coming? See, the number of kernels for this convolutional layer we are using 6. And what is the size, spatial dimension of the kernel? That is 3 cross 3. Means a 3 cross 3 matrix. And how many elements are involved at that 3 cross 3 matrix? Is 3 into 3, 9. For 6 kernel, total how many kernel elements are there? 6 into 9. And for each and every kernel, we will have one bias. So 6 into 3 into 3 plus 6, that is nothing but 60. So in this way, you will be able to understand how these values are coming. For the dense layer, basically, it is nothing but the multiplications of this 122 with the dimension of this features map. If you consider that is 16 cross 5 cross 5 for this case, but for our case, that is, I think 16 we have used. For our case also 16 number of channels, but it is 3 cross 3. So dimension will reduce compared to there. So again, how you just calculate what is the total number of elements that is present in this features map and multiply with 121, sorry, 122, sorry, 120 only, and you will have this value. So I think there is no more confusion for this portion. So this is total learnable parameters. And if you notice in the pooling layer, there is no learnable parameters. Only just we have used some window. There is nothing to learn by our model. So our model is defined. We have seen our model architecture here. That is optional. You need not to run this for your project. If you want to see, you can use that. After that, this is compulsory. You need to compile that model. Means here, what optimizer will be used during training will be defined, will be bounded, and even what are the metrics you want to track during training, that you need to define here. That is accuracy. As this is a classification problem, we'll try to track the accuracy during training. So again, this is there is no error. So now it's time to, means our model is defined, our model is compiled. Now it's time to run, to train our model using the data. See, there is batch size. So as there is 60,000 number of images in the training folder, so you can use batch size 1, you can use 10, 20, 30, does not matter. But if you increase batch size, again, a computational requirement is more. Even if you use a larger batch size, there are multiple scopes to tune your model. So I won't explain all those things here, but I suggest you always use some batches of images during training. Instead of only one image, here 100 images will be considered in one batch as input to the model during training, nothing else. If you change these values, there is no matter, program will run fine. So number of epochs we have used there 10 only because of you see it needs some time to run. So according to requirement, you need to change these values. It may be 1000, 2000, 100, 400. So even there is other options to stop, like to set stopping criteria. You may also set there, but this is the easiest way to train your model. After 10 epochs, it will stop. Now we are coming to this portion. I'll see this portion is executing, and during this time I am explaining this portion. See, we have this function that is present in Keras, fit. Fit is used to train, and this function will be invoked on what? The model. If you see, this is the model, the sequential object, referring to the sequential object. After that, we have added these layers. So this is a variable. If you give any other name, x, y, z, here also it will be x, y, z, even for here also. So after that, we are providing this input training images, corresponding labels, then batch size we are mentioning here, epochs we are mentioning here, variables is 1, it can have 0, 0, 1, 2, just this portion, this line portions will be changed. So this is not a very typical thing for this case. Just this portion will be changed. Means in other way it will appear. So after that, validation data means during training, our model will also be validated. So practically what we do, there is 3 data set, means after having the whole data set, we divide that data set into 3 portions. The major portion will be used for training. Another small portion will be used for validation. Another small portion will be used for testing. Now, what is the difference between validation and testing? During training, we parallelly validate or parallelly test our model. And that is nothing but validation. And once your whole training process is completed, to test your model, trained model, what data set you use, that is basically test data or testing phase. So if you see, this has been executed for 10 epochs. Even you can have a multiple number of parameters to tune this process. So that it is not possible to explain everything here. However, so whatever I have explained, that is enough to start with deep learning projects. And see, the values are appearing here, the same values if you want to see in the graphical matter. So for that we will have some graphs. See, we have executed this hist. See, as we want to work with, or we want to visualize later these values, so we need to have this variable. That is optional. If you don't use this portion, hist equal to, that doesn't matter. Your model will be trained. Even you can use this model. But later on, if you want to explore the findings during training, you won't be able to use. So to do that, we have used this variable, means whatever findings that will be kept in this hist variable. And from there, we are exploring this. Why I suggest you to execute this. This is again not compulsory, optional. See, these are the variables that is listed in this history key. So depending upon the version, might be it changes. For me, it was ACC in the previous version. So while I run this code to the morning, we find that there is an error, and after that I executed this code and then find that the name of this variable has been changed in this version, nothing else. So see, that will be used to plot accuracy. So we understand that it was previously ACC and I got error. So that's why I executed this and I find that this is actually accuracy. So basically we are accessing these parameters, these values from this, basically these numerical values from the history. And these are the graphical methods. We are defining size, subplot. These are very X label, Y label, titles. These are very simple things to define legends. And there is there is no much more things to understand. You can understand easily when you see one by one. So if you execute this, see, this is the output. So basically these things we have shown in the form of plot. And if you increase this number of epochs, it will have a very nice plot. You can see how your model is performing or how your model is learning actually during training. So up to this, we have defined our model, we have compiled that model, we have trained our model. So our model is ready to test, to deploy even. So here we are testing our model. So to test that, such that if you end the session here, later on also your trained model is available, we are saving this model. And where I am saving this, the saving directory is results. So if you see this folder, I have there as in this FDP, I have a folder results. So what I am doing here, I am just deleting all those things such that you can understand clearly. So see, here I am saving my model, my trained model into local drive. See, there is some error. Name OS is not defined. So basically here I am trying to access this folder to this OS, but that OS is not defined here. So what would be import? So as I missed here, so now it has been saved. See, this is the model, the name of the model, the extension of the model that you can see here. So anytime you can use that trained model. It does not matter, you end this session here. So after ending this session, model will be available. But if you don't save, when you end this session, model won't be available. After that, we are executing that model to test using the test data set. If you see, this is an image test level. So there is basically 10,000 images in the test data set. Using those images, whatever performance we have obtained 98% accuracy, classification accuracy, and this is the corresponding loss. And this is the average. Means after executing all images, the average accuracy and average loss has been reported here. After that, if you want to see some images as 98% accuracy we have obtained, so all images have not classified correctly. So to see that, you can have this portion. This is executing. I'm sorry, this is for confusion matrix. Okay, I will edit this. Okay, that does not matter. I will add there another line to understand you. So this code is for showing confusion matrix. I think all of you know what confusion matrix is. Again, there is no much things to understand. You can exactly use this code, and to use this confusion matrix, you need to import these tools. And if you see the number of how many numbers of images are correctly classified or not, that can be understood from this confusion matrix. So this axis indicates true level of the images. This axis indicates predicted level of the images. So there is 974 images. Those are actually 0. My model is also predicting as 0. So similarly, if you move along this diagonal axis, so you can have these are values, those are correctly classified. If you consider these values, this is 1 here, means one image. The true level of that image was 0, but my model predicted as 2. So the confusion matrix gives you a clear picture of performance of your model on the whole test data set. So after that, if you want to see some error, means images, those are wrongly classified. So for that, we have this block. See, if you see this image, the true level is 8, but my model predicted as 7. If you consider this one, true level is 6, my model predicted as 1. For this case, true level is 8, for the model predicted 3. So in this way, you can understand these things are also. So whatever the measures, things you need to understand for deep learning projects, even for your research work, if you anybody want to carry research work, if you want to start your career from right now, right here. So this is the starting point that I have explained already. If you have any questions, please ask me. In the second session, as I mentioned, I will show you how we can classify COVID, non-COVID images, and that is much more interesting. So here we can end our session if you don't have any questions. And if you have question, please ask me.
Sir, there are a few questions in chat box.
Yeah, please.
One question is that, is there any constants on selecting the number of epochs?
No, there is no constraint, but say I have considering 1000 number of epochs. Now that can be a probability that your model will be overfitted after 200 epochs. So that's why you need to visualize the training iterations, training performance, whether your model is overfitting or not. If you understand that after 200 epochs, your model is getting overfitted, for the next experiment, you need to reduce that value into 200. But there is no constraint in the number of epochs.
There is another question on chat box. Is there any method to select trained and test model? Means depending on amount of data, how much data will be used as trained and how much data will be used as test data?
Yeah. No, there is again no guidelines for you. You can use whole data for your training, but what is the normal practice? You must separate out validation data and test data from the original data set. And if you ask about the ratio, that depends upon you. You may consider 90% images or data for training purpose. You may consider 10% for testing, 10% for validation. Even you can consider 5% for training, 5% for validation. That does not matter. But I think you can understand that the most of the data, most of the portion you need to consider for training. Yeah, next. But there is no hard and fast rule.
Okay. Can provide an example to train our own image?
Yeah, sure. As I already mentioned several times, in the second, next session, I will again show you another use case, again from scratch. Like you can consider any images for your cases, and you are taking from internet or anywhere, you are tracking them into a folder. So I think you will understand all those things in that session. Yeah, next, please, madam.
No more questions. but there is a request. Can you share this file, that is .ipynb
Obviously, after completing today's sessions, I will share those files. Sure.
So no more questions are there, so we can end this session. And thank you, sir, for this lab session. And hopefully you will be taking on second half also. So we
Yeah.
will be again coming back at 2 p.m. for the participants. We will be coming back 2 p.m. and so we will end here.
Okay. Thank you very much.